and welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. You know, today is another good day. We are going to have a conversation that I have been looking forward to. I know everybody has heard a lot about stem cell research and all these other therapies. So today we are going to get into it. We've had discussions about cannabis. We've had discussions about psychedelics. Well, today we're going to have discussions about stem cell. So we're going to discuss it with Darlene Greene. She is a naval commander, retired. She is also a stem cell activation technology consultant. She is all about helping people get over pain. So let's bring on Darlene Greene. Hey, how's it going, Darlene?
Hi, Donald. It's going great. Thank you. How are you today?
I am doing amazing. So,
I'm so glad to
why don't you give everybody a little quick overview of who Darlene is and kind of give them an idea of what brought you to the military? How did that come about?
Yeah. So I started in the military very young, as a lot of people do, right out of college. I went into Navy ROTC. That was how I paid for my school at University of Virginia on a full ride scholarship. So I wanted to fly jets initially, and then ultimately was marrying right on the graduation weekend that I was leaving college. I was marrying a surface warfare officer. So at the time, flying and surface warfare didn't mix. So I bailed on the flying, and I ended up doing shore station management. I had 3 commanding officer tours throughout my Navy 20 years. The last one, I was over 1,200 people. And I actually, probably the thing that I'm most proud of in the Navy was I helped to establish a program called the Returning Warrior Weekend Workshop Program, which helped people that were coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq transition more fully and capably with their spouses into their civilian jobs. They were all having a pretty tough time of that. And because they had been sent over as individuals and came back as individuals and not like units going and coming back, they didn't understand that what they were experiencing was very normal and that others were experiencing it as well. So we pulled this group of facilitators, we created a curriculum, we brought in guest speakers, some amazing guest speakers, and we talked to them about issues that they were facing and normalized it and got them talking even more successfully in small group discussions. And that program was so successful. We had 100% of people who went through it say they recommended it for others and that it had really helped change their life and save their marriage. And some said it saved their life. We did EMDR and other therapies on the spot. We had them surrounded by chaplains and doctors and nurses and people that could also support them, but also the VA and VFW so that they could know the resources. But most importantly, we got them talking and understanding that their experience wasn't, that they weren't alone, really. I'm not going to say it's not unique. Everyone's experience is very unique, but right. That they weren't alone. And in many cases, spouses said, this is the first time I've ever heard my spouse talk about this before. So that was really powerful, and it's still in existence today. So we built that in 2005, initially for my team, and I was a commanding officer of the Navy Operational Support Center in Phoenix, Arizona. We took it throughout the Southwest region, and then it went through nationwide, and it's protected with yellow ribbon panel funding, and it's still in existence today. And I'm really proud of that because I know that a lot of people have gone through that, and it has helped people. And we did need to do a better job. We really weren't doing anything differently than we had done before in Vietnam. I mean, nobody was getting a ticker tape parade. They'd gone off for a year on sometimes 2 weeks or 1 week notice, and they were coming back, and no one even said thank you. So it was a really neat opportunity to honor them and to honor their spouses. So that was a crowning moment and a very big deal as I was leaving and retiring from the Navy. Most people that went through this workshop didn't know I had anything to do with it other than I was emceeing it and kind of masters of ceremony. But on the final one, they awarded me a medal, and they said that what my involvement had been. And I had these salty Navy chiefs come up with tears in their eyes and cry. 120 people came up and told me how wonderful this program was and what a difference it had made. So that was so much of a high to walk out of the Navy on. I was like, what am I ever going to do ever again that has that level of intrinsic reward? And I'll tell you, I rolled into technology, and I love technology. Don't get me wrong, but having the network and security and data, all of this working and everything up, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. It's not as intrinsically rewarding. And I have stayed mostly in the technology stack, both the network security and hardware area, as well as I went over and was a vice president for McAfee for a bit, and that was really cool. I've been a dean of a boarding school. Leadership from the military really allowed me to do all sorts of things. I'm a director of client services for a technology company at this point, but my passion has recently been stoked, and it's because of this intrinsic reward we're talking about again in helping people with their health. And it came about because my husband was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's, and as heartbreaking as that is, wow, your first step is, what do we do? How can we fix this? What can we do for it? And it's interesting because it took a while for us to actually get the diagnosis, Donald, because one of the things you find out, well, he had some weight to lose. So we got to lose, you've got insulin. They call it the type 3 diabetes, right? So first step is make sure that we get rid of that insulin resistance. And then the second step was we found that he had mold. Well, 70 to 80% of people with Alzheimer's actually are found to have mold and insulin resistance. So he had both of them right out of the gate. So knocking those out was part of the problem and part of the solution. But the question I had was, okay, does mold can present like dementia? Does he really have Alzheimer's? And since nobody actually can tell you until you die and they do an autopsy, I was really struck with, well, what do I do? How do I know? And so ultimately they did a spinal tap. The Barrows Neurological Center did a spinal tap and pulled out and said, yes, he does. 99% sure he has Alzheimer's. So, okay, so what do we do? Well, they don't really have anything for that. In fact, the only new latest drug that came out recently, it gives people with my husband's APOE44 gene type brain bleeds in 50% of them. So no, not really an option, right? So we went looking for some alternatives, and stem cells are huge. So they are all over the newspapers. This is the future of healing, really, right? So we went out of country, out of the United States 4 times in a year, and we both got stem cells, because we'll talk about me later, but I have several autoimmune disorders that I needed some help with. One of which is POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia, and I was just passing out. So I was having to take a medicine to actually increase my blood pressure to keep from passing out. So I was hoping that the stem cells would help me and to help him. And we did that 4 times in a year, and we really didn't see any results. We didn't really see any improvement at all. We tried things like hyperbaric chamber. We did that 3 times a week for a month, and even added ozone blood spinning therapy to that, because that's supposed to be really helpful. Didn't see any improvement. In fact, I actually think he got a little bit worse there. We've done hydrogen water. We have an infrared sauna. We certainly overhauled the diet to follow the Dr. Bredesen protocol. If anybody has Alzheimer's on your call and they're not listening and reading all about Dr. Bredesen, that's step 1. Read his books, Reversing Alzheimer's, because he's the only person in the country or in the world that I'm aware of that's actually getting reversals, and at pretty high statistics that people can follow the results. We were doing that, and that meant we cut out. I have this saying, Donald, if it tastes good, spit it out. Not really true, but we certainly cut out alcohol. We cut out soda. We cut out white flour, white sugar, genetically modified foods, any kind of vegetable oils. Like, we only have extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and grass-fed, grass-finished proteins, and all of the things that are really good for you. We added strength training, including working with a trainer 3 times a week. And we worked on his sleep protocol so that he could really improve his sleep, because deep sleep is when the brain releases all those toxins and cleanses itself. And he was only getting, we were measuring about 15 minutes of deep sleep, even after all the things that we instituted. So we were still really struggling. Well, it came down to the decline was just precipitous. And ultimately, I really lost my husband. He was a shell of his former self. And this was a strapping football player, Navy captain, had been on an aircraft carrier, landing on an aircraft carrier 1,200 times. He's on the Naval Air Museum. He's a rock star in the area. He was a tech geek, and God, he was very active and so smart and so sweet. So what happened was he was sleeping all day, 3.5 hours a day. I would actually go check, like, are you breathing? I mean, 3.5 hours is a long nap, you worry about going to 3.5 hours. And then he was still falling asleep at 7 o'clock at night. And he was just disengaged from conversation. He wasn't even trying to have conversations anymore because I think they were just too challenging for him. So he would ask the same questions, 7 times in 3 minutes, which is very common for people with any kind of dementia. But my heart really broke because when I say I lost my husband, he was no longer even trying to be funny. Yeah. And what I mean by that is core to who he is. His whole personality is about making people laugh and being funny. And even when it gets him into trouble, like that's even through the Navy, his 30 years in the Navy, he was always funny. Well, he wasn't even trying. Before, like, a year or two ago, he would maybe not land it. Like he would try, but it wouldn't quite land. Now he wasn't even trying. So I was really very, very sad. We started this X39 patch. It is a little tiny quarter size patch. I have to tell you, my title had to change. I can no longer be a stem cell activation technology consultant because in the time since I recently wrote that bio, the feedback I have now is the FDA has come out and said, your stem cells, including the ones in your own body, are a drug. And so even though we have double-blind placebo-controlled studies that say that this elevates and activates your stem cells, I can't say that. What I can say, though, is that it elevates and activates a copper peptide called GHK-Cu, and that elevates and activates your stem cells. So you'll see me do a little crosswalk dance as I talk through this, and I wanted you to understand why I want to be in compliance, and I don't want to get in trouble from the FDA, and I don't want you to get in trouble from the FDA, but I just wanted to explain that. So we started wearing this patch. And I'll talk about how it works in a little bit. But what happened was nothing short of a miracle. In the first week, he didn't nap at all. Not even day 1, not day 2, not even a little nap. And he didn't fall asleep at 7 o'clock. He stayed awake all night. And I'm just like watching and thinking, what? And he was so chatty. It was like a dam broke. And all of a sudden he had 2 years worth of talk to say. It was like talk. And they were like appropriate. And it was accurate. It was like the proper response. And he was with it. And of course, he wasn't asking me the same questions over and over again. And on top of that, he was funny. He was funny and he was flirty and he was my husband again. And if it awesome. Just had stopped just there, I would have been very, very happy. But it even gets better. At the second week, he actually experienced the best recorded deep sleep he's ever had. From 15 minutes went to 1 hour and 25 minutes. And then at the 2.5-month mark, he regained his ability to whistle. And Donald, my husband whistles like a musical instrument. It fills the house with joy and happiness, right? He can whistle any tune, but he had lost it. And he sounded like a little 5-year-old trying to learn how to whistle. And so when he got that back, I was so happy. And then he also could drum to the beat again. And that's a brain thing. He also had his blood pressure drop. And so he had high blood pressure, 172/94, which is very high. And they wanted to put him on a medicine. But naturopaths were saying, wait a minute, we need the blood to the brain. I don't want to put him on something that actually restricts blood flow. That's not a good idea either. So when his blood pressure dropped to 135/87, that's 37 points. That was tremendous. And that was at the 2.5-month mark. At the 5-month mark, he regained his sense of smell. And he lost his sense of smell 15 years ago. What I didn't know then, what I now know, is that 15 years ago when he lost his sense of smell, that was an early warning indicator for Alzheimer's. And so anybody listening who's lost your sense of smell, not related to COVID or a vaccine virus thing, then you ought to get it checked out because it is an early warning. They actually do testing to see. So that's worth checking out. And regaining that sense of smell was a huge pleasure for him. And also, he has this huge bald spot that he's always had since I've known him. I mean, big. And over time, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And chestnut brown hair is growing in. He's had silver or gray or blonde hair since I've known him. And I said, did you ever have chestnut brown hair? Like, when did you have brown hair? And he said, when I was a little kid. So that's been really fun to see that kind of closing in. And you can see, I actually have all these little, we were talking about earlier, I have all these little sprouts that have come up myself they're just not lying down because they're not long enough and they're just unruly. So anyway, that is Jim's story. And if you'd like, I can tell you a little bit of mine, because one of the things that I experienced was I was depressed. So it was really very hard. I don't think for the good 2 first years I really accepted the diagnosis of Alzheimer's or was willing to let it in. I think I was just kind of getting the motion, but I broke my foot. And I think I was actually handling stress pretty well. I was playing pickleball. I was social with friends. I was doing a lot of things to help me deal with stress. But I broke my foot. I tore a ligament. One ligament was completely torn. The other one 90%. I needed surgery, and I was in pain. And I was 5 months later in pain. Like, we hadn't had the surgery in 5 months, and I was in enormous pain. And I was, having the symptoms of my autoimmune disorders, which are chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and POTS. I had regular headaches. I had rosacea. I had a very bad forehead, of just covered in red acne, fiery. And it had been that way for, years, decades. And I couldn't, anything the dermatologist didn't really help it. So I had all of these issues. I wasn't able to lose weight. I was stress eating. We don't have anything bad in the house, but I could eat a whole bag of, sea salt and vinegar almonds or pistachios. It's all good, but it's like too much. When you keep eating, even though you're not hungry, but you're just like emotionally, it feels good. So I was doing that. And so I started patching. And what I first noticed was energy. Well, no, actually, the very first thing I noticed was a lack of pain. So there's a patch that we have called Ice Wave. And it is the most remarkable patch. It looks like this. We use it on animals. There's one called AccuLife for animals. This Ice Wave patch immediately, within 15 seconds, takes your pain away. It is better than Vicodin. It's better than Percocet. It's better than morphine. It is so remarkable. It takes care of migraines. It takes care, I'm not allowed to say that. It takes care of the symptoms of migraines. It helps with so many things that I can't even begin to describe. And so when I first put these patches on and my pain went away, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just that moment in time. It's like the 5th month. I mean, it's been a long time. Maybe this is the day that the pain goes away, right? Maybe it's not really the patches, but you wear the patch 12 hours on and then 12 hours off. And I took them off. And when I took them off, in 15 minutes, back came the pain, and it just throbbed, just like it was before. And I was like, okay, it's the patches. So every day I was able to get out of relief. I found my headaches stopped, my rosacea cleared, my skin became super soft. I lost 10 pounds effortlessly. I was no longer stress eating. And I also found I had not only fewer body aches, but just, 10 pounds dropped off. I finally had this normal relationship with food. I don't think I've really had a normal relationship with food since I was in high school. I mean, they're a sugar addict or a salt addict or something all the time. But I had this calmness that came over me, and I'm not thinking about my next meal. I'm not craving it. It actually can help with addictions. That's amazing to say, but I can tell you it helped me with mine. And I think this is probably what normal people eat like they think, you get hungry, you eat something, you stop when you're satiated, and you wait until you're hungry again. But that was not me before. So that happened for me. But the best thing of all was that my depression lifted. And I am someone that's had PTSD. I am someone that's had depression and anxiety. I've been on different medicines before. I've done EMDR. It was my own trauma that enabled me to see the trauma in my returning warriors, which is why I built the program to begin with, so that I could try to help them, because I didn't want anybody going through what I had been through. And I wanted to help. And so I know what that feels like. And I'm here to tell you, nothing I've ever done, even EMDR, which I think is the best thing I've ever done for any kind of depression or anxiety, nothing compares to what these patches have done for me in just lifting. I went from wanting to cry every day to just feeling like I got this, and being grateful and happy actually, not just like not depressed, but joy-filled and filled with gratitude and so much energy. I'm in the kitchen cooking, and I'm like, I don't know why I hated cooking. why did I hate cooking? But I think I hated cooking because I had no energy to cook. Like, it takes energy to cook. And at the end of the day, who's got any energy to cook? So I had all of these improvements myself. And so, I'm immediately like, Mom, Dad, sister, you guys have got to try this, right? And so they have their stories. My sister's microscopic colitis that she had 6 years, and she went out of country and got IV stem cells, and she tried steroids and she tried antibiotics. Nothing worked. 3 weeks on the patches and her microscopic colitis goes away. My friend with Parkinson's, who tremored since she was 5, she was on the patches 3 weeks and her tremors were almost entirely gone. There are just a story after story I could tell you from people that I can see and touch in my life. And so I kind of mentioned this in the green room earlier, Donald, that I'm the last person I would have ever expected to come on a podcast, because I posted once when one daughter graduated from the Naval Academy and once when the other daughter graduated from the Air Force Academy. And that was my social footprint. Like, that was just sort of it. I just didn't post anything because I was very, very private. So to come on a podcast and talk about my own depression, my own autoimmune diseases, and my husband's Alzheimer's, this is not an easy thing for me, but I'm a little bit mad that I didn't know about this, because I did a ton of research and I asked not only Banner's Alzheimer's, and I asked Barrow's Neurological, and I asked all the doctors that I know, what can we do? And they're like, come back in a year and we'll see how far he's declined. That was my answer. And here I don't want anybody to walk away thinking that he's cured. He is not cured. Like, I want everybody to understand, and I have to do the clause of life-weight products are not intended to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent any disease, because that's important that everybody understand. This is in the general category of a wellness product, like a Band-Aid. It looks like a Band-Aid. It has no medicine that's going into your skin. And let's talk a little about how it works, because you're kind of, by now you're going, what? Like,
before we get there, there's a few people that's got a couple questions. Rayan is asking if it's Nuciferin. I'm assuming that's a brand or something.
Nope, it's LifeWave X39, and you can find it on my website. You can order it on my website, and there's no drug going into your body on the website. So you can actually, I don't think I knew this, but when you're 30, half of your stem cells are dormant. And when you're 60, they're almost all dormant. And so stem cells can become anything. They can become cartilage or bone or muscle or fat or anything. They can become brain or lungs or kidney. So what this is doing is actually elevating a copper peptide, GHK-Cu. You can actually Google and PubMed GHK-Cu, and we can talk about the benefits of that in a little bit if you want to. Was there another question that you wanted to ask?
And then Joel, I know Joel. He had mentioned that he should try it for tremors, and you talking about you knew somebody that had it from Parkinson's.
Yes. Lots of people.
Yeah.
Tremors. I've heard people that have lost their tremors. I've heard people who no longer have seizures. I know people that no longer are on their ADHD medicine. I know people who are no longer on their cholesterol medicine, their thyroid medicine, their blood pressure medicine, their depression, antidepressant, their anti-anxiety medicines. They just, and so, you need to monitor all that, because this stuff is going in and fixing things at a cellular level, repairing, rejuvenating at a cellular level. So yeah. Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
So let's talk about how it works, because it's actually a technology that you'll understand once I say it. So, when you go out in the sunlight hitting your skin helps your body make vitamin D. Yep. Your body has this reaction. It says, oh, I need to make vitamin D. And we know that. We kind of all know that. We need to get our little vitamin D hit. Well, we also know it makes melanin. It changes our melanin levels. So light therapy has been around 5,000 years. And very kind of in line with the military thinking, if I looked at you with night vision goggles, I would see light inside of you.
Yep.
Just, you have light inside of you. So what this patch is, it's akin to a little mirror. It's actually a hermetically sealed nanocrystals that reflect your light back, your own light back into your body at a very specific wavelength that's elevating that copper peptide and altering your gene expression to a younger state. In fact, in 24 hours, the X39 patch actually resets 4,000 genes to their younger and healthier state. It's just remarkable. So this is a non-transdermal patch. And it's so safe that there were over 300 Olympic athletes that wore the LifeWave patches in the 2008 Olympics. Serena Williams, David Beckham, Michael Phelps, Ivory Sully, who's a 5-time NFL outstanding special teams player, recently in September said that Tom Brady is wearing these patches. So all of that to say, if it wasn't safe, those Olympians are not going to put anything on their body. And you can actually see pictures of them on the stand. The whole team that swept the gold medal swimmers, they're all wearing these patches. At that time, I think it was our first patch that they were wearing called Energy Enhancers, which is a great patch. Anybody who's like addicted to this is like Energizer Bunny energy. It's not like a shot of espresso where you feel it in your veins and you're like, yeah, baby. It's not like that. I've never had a Red Bull, but I imagine it's not like that. It's more like you never dip. You just kind of have energy all day long through the end of the night until you take them off. Like I actually have a little reminder on my phone, take off your energy enhancers like an hour or so before bed, because otherwise I'm still sort of ready to go right before I go to bed.
Wow. Yeah, because the crash from those sucks. I make it through the workday, but when I get home, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, that's and they're not. There are pros and cons to some of those things. There are lots of people that will say that coffee is actually very good for you. I don't know that there's anything very good about a Red Bull, but I think there are some pro elements to coffee or green tea or some of the things that do have caffeine in them. But there's only good around the energy enhancers. I mean, the X39 is known to actually raise energy and help with deep sleep. In fact, let me talk about some of the things that people who wear X39 experience. They experience rapid pain relief, reduced inflammation, support wound healing, energy and vitality, mental clarity. They improve their sports performance, and they have faster recovery from exercise, and they have improved skin appearance. In fact, if you were to look, those very much mirror what you'll see GHK-Cu does. So we talked about the copper peptide, that this is elevating. And there's actually a book that I have right here called How to Reverse Aging, A Comprehensive Guide to Copper Peptides by Dr. John Harmon. And in here, he talks about all the things copper peptide does. And some of those include, yes, they increase your stem cells and they produce growth factors. They also protect lung cells, including restoring healthy function in COPD affected cells. And you can Google this and find this all there. This is a very well-researched peptide. It's an antioxidant, it's an anti-inflammatory. It has a huge impact on the brain and nerves, including altering expression of human genes, inducing strong anti-anxiety, anti-aggression, anti-pain. It has amazing anti-cancer benefits. So GHK-Cu top 1309 bioactive compounds, which is the recommended treatment for colon cancer, and it reset the programmed cell death of human cancer cells, including human neuroblastoma, leukemia, and breast cancer cells. But Donald, it did not affect the healthy cells. It did not affect the healthy cells. So it inhibited NFKB-P65, which is believed to promote cancer, and it repaired damaged DNA, and it reset 84 genes to growth or cancer inhibition. So it's just this, and then it does all this stuff for skin and hair and accelerates wound healing, but it also has this amazing thing for the heart. One of the things it does for the heart is it reduces fibrinogen synthesis, which is a top predictor of cardiovascular heart disease. And it increased myostatin, which inhibits heart failure. This is why there's this anesthesiologist named Dr. Joseph Peck. He's been a 40-year physician, and he says that X39 is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. And when you look at the brain study and the heart study that goes along with like the X39, there was a double-blind placebo control. So there are over 90 clinical studies. This is very well studied, very well researched. And you can go on my website, that IamReverseAging.com, and you can see the studies, you can see the patents, you can listen to stories if you'd rather listen to testimonials. But you can actually look at this one study that I like so much on the brain. And this is great relevance for me because of my husband's brain and actually my own brain. I don't know that I ever thought about depression and anxiety being inflammation in the brain. I don't know that I ever thought about it being hypercoherence. I just thought about it as being something I needed to white knuckle through or take some kind of drug for, or talk therapy, or something that I needed to manage. But it never occurred to me there was like this physical thing that could actually be helped. So in this study, what they found is they did an EEG before the person went on the X39. And there are several people that had this red circle. And I showed it to you before, this red circle that has this smear of red. And that red is, that represents inflammation and hypercoherence, which is it's not good communication between the left and right hemispheres. It's like an LA traffic jam, actually. That means you're not processing very well. It's also like ADHD and PTSD and anxiety. It's all the things not making our brain work right. And in 3 weeks, they did another EEG. And at that point, they found their colors started coming in, right? The yellows, the greens, the blues, all of these beautiful colors came in, and there was way less red. And the people were reporting, oh my gosh, I'm so much calmer. I'm less nervous. I'm able to remember better. And then at 6 weeks, they did another EEG, and you have a whole improved mapping of their brain, and you can physically see it. And this was a double-blind placebo-controlled study. And the findings actually were, yes, it increased GHK-Cu. Yes, it supported cell and nerve regeneration. Yes, it balanced the brain. It improved coherence. It improved the nervous system. It lowered anxiety. It decreased brain inflammation. It improved memory, focus, cognitive brain function, and it also improved task processing ease. And the more complex the task, the better it improved. And I got to watch that in my husband. I got to experience that myself. And these people that did the study did as well. So that's just the impact on the brain. But one of the great things that we talked about copper peptides. So copper peptides found throughout your whole body. And that's why when it's activating those stem cells, those run through your whole body. So one of the other studies that Dr. John Harmon likes to say, because Dr. John Harmon had a right branch bundle blockage, and he actually was told there's really nothing you can do for that. There's no cure, there's no medicine, there's no surgery for a right branch bundle blockage. So what they find, though, in a double-blind placebo-controlled study is that X39, every 6 weeks of wearing X39, the cardiovascular system behaves as if it starts functioning as if it's 8 weeks younger. And I can only tell you, I have a cousin who just had a heart attack this week, and he barely made it through. And I tried several times to say, please try these patches, because I know he's a high risk. And he would not even look at the studies. He would not even look at it. He absolutely, I have probably 20 people in the family on these patches that are all reporting amazing results, and he wouldn't talk to us about it. So now we're in the situation where I'm like, maybe he'll think about it now. But it's just heartbreaking when you have something that can change lives. I am only on this podcast because where was somebody when I needed this 2 years ago? Where would we be today if I would have started this 2 years ago? Because 14 months after he was on the patch, his right branch bundle blockage went away. After people said there's no way this can go anywhere, it went away in 14 months. So there are things that can happen that are magical in some regard, because stem cells can do anything. What can stem cells not do? They made you when you were a baby. Yeah. The first two cells. There is no part of you that they can't make. And while it's a little bit risky to put somebody else's stem cells in you, I know, I get it. It's also very controversial. I was desperate, and I'm sorry for those of you who are against it all. I understand. But this is just elevating and activating your own stem cells through your elevation and activation of your copper peptide.
So let me ask you this, because like you just said, there is a lot of people that are, extremely against other people's stem cells, and there's also the other side of that, and you usually hear it on the very wealthy, the very high upper class athletes, the people like Joe Rogan talks a lot about the fighters and stuff that are making large amounts of money, and they want to heal extremely fast. They're the ones that are going overseas and they're doing all these, things that we don't do in the United States. And you don't never hear about how they went and spent all this money and came back and nope, it didn't work.
Right. Right.
You
But
you hear about how it was great.
I can tell you that happened to me 4 times. That happened to me, right? And it has to happen to, it happened to my sister. It didn't help my sister. So I think there are success stories, and I really, there are people who get a lot of benefit from them. And I'm not saying that there weren't. And maybe what happened was we were so inflamed from the mold that we have, because one of the issues is we both have mold we had to get rid of, that maybe the inflammation just ate up the stem cells, because inflammation eats up stem cells, which is why one of the things that I like to recommend is that people try this, the Eon patch that we have actually reduces inflammation. And so when you reduce inflammation, while you elevate and activate your GHK-Cu and then thereby stem cells, now they can really go to work for you. So it could be that we did the combination, and by reducing the inflammation, the stem cells could really go to work for us. It also could be that, who knows whether the IV stem cells and the injections that we got were really stem cells. Were they real? I mean, were they dead? Were they alive? They're supposed to be fresh and they're promised to be this, but who knows? And maybe we got a bad batch 4 times. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
it's all really very, it's not very controlled, right? And I love the fact that you don't have to be rich like Tony Robbins in this case. $99. If you just did one thing, $99 for a 1 month supply, and then it needs to be worn more than a month. You need to think about it, 1 month for every decade you are old. Most people experience the benefits, at least they start to feel the benefits within 3 to 6 weeks. Most people. Some people are like first night, they go, wow, I feel it. Other people take a little bit longer. There is like 15 to 20% that literally take like 3 to 6 months. They just take a little bit longer, because sometimes that copper peptide is going in and it's fixing things that you don't feel, that you don't even know about. I mean, we'd love to say, go to my husband's brain, but it might say, oh, but we got to start with the liver because, he was a Navy boy. So I don't know, you just never know. But there's a reason that since the X39 patch, because the Eon patch was the #1 patch before X39 came out in 2019. Since this patch came out, though, the X39, you literally have had 20 times growth in the company in 4 years. And that was during the pandemic. So there's just a lot to be said for that. And I want to say one other thing, because of a lot of the audience that's had either the COVID vaccination or COVID, or is afraid of COVID, or has had spike proteins as a result of being around somebody that's been vaccinated. So you don't even have to have had the vaccination to actually have spike proteins, because there's shedding from the virus vaccination, if you call it the vaccination. So, but what I want to speak to is something called glutathione. Now, a lot of people don't know about glutathione. I actually did know about glutathione before I found out about the patches, but I will tell you only because I was trying to detox from mold. I don't know that I would have known about that other than that. And glutathione, however, it's this amazing thing. Glutathione is the body's master antioxidant, and it's your immune booster. So I was taking it via IV or via oral. And I remember thinking, God, this is really expensive stuff. But what I found was that even injecting it via IV, I was increasing my glutathione levels by 27% for 7 minutes. 7 minutes, that's it. So I hope it was doing really well, because it was costing me a bit of money for that 7 minutes. Right? But what glutathione was doing, but what this patch does, is it raises your glutathione levels 300%, and it keeps it there for 24 hours. So let's talk about what glutathione does. One, the people that live the longest in the world have the highest levels of glutathione. So if you were to go to look at people that are 100 years old, they have very high levels of glutathione. If you go look in the blue zones, they have very high levels of glutathione. Two, it protects the DNA from damage, and it initiates repair to damaged cells. It protects and rejuvenates stem cells. It increases your length of life. It reduces inflammation. In fact, it's actually also helpful in increasing collagen. So what we often have people do is they'll put a glutathione patch on one part of a knee and an Eon patch on another part of the knee. And these people who were going to go in for bone, like literally they were bone on bone and they needed a knee replacement, they go back in several months later and they don't need a knee replacement anymore. And there is new cartilage in their place. So there's an amazing treatment for that. I can't call it a treatment though. I can call it an approach. We see people improve acne. I think you saw a picture. My website has a picture of someone who's improved acne tremendously. It also protects the myelin sheath. So if there's anybody with Parkinson's listening, you know about the myelin sheath, and that's the real cause of symptoms. And so by protecting the myelin sheath, you can actually see reversal of symptoms, like maybe the tremors that we're talking about. It detoxifies even heavy metals, and it helps wound healing. But what I really wanted to talk about is that this patch with this Eon, with this X39, these three together for 2 months will knock out and eliminate your spiked proteins. And that's amazing because spike proteins are really problematic. If you don't know about them, they're impacting your respiratory system. They're causing inflammation in your heart. And anybody that's got the vaccine or has had COVID or is really around people with the vaccine, you probably have spike proteins. And so just 2 months on these three patches will eliminate them. And I know this because my friend had a live cell study done, and she had spike proteins across all of the cells. And she went back and had him done 6 weeks later after wearing these three patches. 6 weeks later, she had the same test done, that she did not change anything else. And they were all gone except one that was hiding behind a cell. And she's like, yeah, you're toast tomorrow. You're out of here. So, just know that there are multiple patches that are supportive patches, and it's worth exploring and looking into. But, I would just say that there's just nothing you can do better for your body. And there is no risk. There's no contraindications. You could take any medicine that you're currently taking with it. You can even have chemotherapy and radiation and still be doing the patches. They recommend you wait like during the 72 hours right after chemotherapy or radiation, because it isn't that it isn't working. It'll work and it'll make, activate that copper peptide, but then the radiation and the chemo just kills it all. So you're kind of just wasting your money on the patches during that time. And this one is, I said $99 for a month supply. This one's only $49 for a month supply. So you could get 2 X39 and 2 Eon for $299, or you can get IceWave if you're in pain. You could get like 2 X39 and an IceWave and an Eon, or you could throw in a glutathione. You could throw in an energy enhancer. I mean, you can customize the kit however you want. The base kit is, you can get it wholesale at $129 for the 1 X39, or you can get them all for $99 if you buy 3 for $299. And you don't need a prescription, and it ships. We're in over 70 different countries. We're global, and we have manufacturing in California and Utah and Ireland, actually. So, I mean, it's just like, there's not a good reason to not try it. There's even a money back guarantee. And if someone's worried about it, when you can reach out to me on the website, I can connect you with a doctor, Dr. Cashel Southwick, who will explain to you if you have any pharmaceutical situations that you're worried about. She can walk you through. She's been doing this for a long time, and she will answer your questions. And I can arrange for that for your audience, Donald. So there's really, it's just such a no-brainer to try it.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, like we was talking about before the show, I always encourage, my listeners to try the legal stuff before pursuing the illegal stuff, because you don't never know where you're going to get. And in today's world, having some sort of control and knowing what is being put in your products is extremely important. So,
yeah, and Donald, I think we forget sometimes that our body has an innate wisdom. I mean, it created us from the beginning, and it really does know how to heal. But sometimes, I mean, glutathione isn't made after age 30, and our stem cells are completely, half of them are dormant by 30, and I talked about that. But part of that's because way back when we were first developed, we died around then. Like, our bodies weren't necessarily meant to live as long as we're living. And so what we need to do is just sort of reboot and get those things, glutathione, and get those that copper peptide in there, activating those stem cells. And our body knows how to heal and how to fix itself and what to do. And there's just endless stories that I could share with you for people that had leukemia, people who had lung cancer. And you can actually see pictures on the website of a gal named Nikki who had just this whole body of lung cancer. And she was told, you have 4 to 6 months to live. And we're sorry, there's no surgery that can help you. There's no medicine that can help you. There's just nothing we can do. And 5 months later, you see the other PET scan, and you can see that it's completely clear. It's just remarkable. And there are people with scoliosis, and their back is straightening, and they're out of pain. And people with there was a gal with 2,400 days of migraines in a row, nonstop. Wow. she had a sinus surgery that went bad, and then she had to have a brain surgery, and she had Sluder's neuralgia. I mean, 2,400 days of migraines. You could just probably take me, because I wouldn't even want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I'm sure she felt that way, but she had a special needs child that she had to live for. And she did Ice Wave and X39, and in 5 minutes, her migraine symptoms were gone for the first time in 2,400 days. And she'll cry telling the story, but that's not where she'll cry. She'll cry by talking about her daughter, who was 16, and I think 16, I'm not entirely sure of her age, but she was born with I think she had some kind of a spinal something, so she couldn't move her body. So she was sort of like paralyzed. She had never moved her arms over her head, and she was in a bed. And they heard her giggling, and after a day, they put X39 on her, and a day later, they went into her room to see what she was giggling about, because she was laughing. She was holding her arm over her head for the first time in her entire life. And you have like story after story after story like this of people that just these miracles occur.
Has Big Pharma ever tried to attack this and try to knock it off the shelf or try to get rid of it?
You know, because it's direct sales, I don't know that they'll be able to. I would say this. Have you seen much television about this? I think Big Pharma owns the media companies. I think Big Pharma owns I think Big Pharma is in bed with government. I think when the FDA comes out and says, I'm sorry, you can no longer say that this activates stem cells, that's a Big Pharma influence. Because if we can actually reverse age and have all these symptoms clear, and we don't need medicine to do it, that's really not good for Big Pharma, right? So it is an interesting question, and I think that, you know, we are now in the site, because we're just getting at that size where we're big enough and people are starting to notice. So our company is trying really hard to be very compliant with the language that we use. And I hope that I've been compliant with the language that I'm using, but I'm not entirely sure because it's not 100% clear to me. But I'm trying, because I want to make sure that I share this without making any medical claims, because it's a general wellness product. It is FDA compliant. It is not a medical device. There's no medicine getting into your body. It's like a little Band-Aid. You wear it 12 hours on, 12 hours off. It sticks. Like, I put mine on, I go work out, I get in the shower, I come out, it's all staying on, like from, swimmers were swimming with it. So it's really quite amazing. But I don't know. We'll watch and see. I don't feel like they would certainly be helpful. There are a lot of doctors though that are using this in their practice. I have 2 doctors using this that are my doctors. I have, in fact, there's a doctor named Dr. Adam Shiner that you can Google on a YouTube video where he talks about, he's a very, very famous plastic surgeon. People come from all over the world to him. And he was on the Dr. Oz show and featured on the doctors for this very special eye surgery he does. And I will tell you that he has his patients wearing X39 3 months prior to surgery and then 6 months after. And the recovery that he sees, he shows pictures actually, and he talks about it is so much improved. It's like 40% faster healing, and they look so much better, and they don't have the pain, and they don't have the swelling, and they don't have the inflammation. And so he's just sort of asking clients, this is what I want you to do. And of course, they're paying huge sums of money for those plastic surgeons anyway. So they're like, yeah, $99, I got you. So, it is, but he's using it. There are a lot of other types of doctors using it in the practice. There's a cardiologist talking about it in his practice. There's a lot of chiropractors who are using it. Typically you're more open-minded doctors. I do have friends that are Western medicine. I'm only doing this if it's from a big pharma, because when you think about it, where did they learn what they learned to be doctors? They basically learned a curriculum that was built. The whole curriculum is established by the pharmaceutical companies. So they come out understanding surgery and drugs, not nutrition, not wellness, not light, not energy, not meridians, not pain prevention, not how to keep us out of depression, just drugs and surgery.
Well, and let's be honest too. The new medical system isn't exactly user friendly to doctors that are not pushing certain recommended products. So it is a pay to play system.
Well, and doctors get in trouble. Doctors get in trouble for saying in California, like, we think you should take vitamin C to help prevent, certain viruses that are floating around. They can get in trouble with their license for that. I mean, that's crazy. It's sort of like, if you haven't had something taken down, to talk, you're probably not speaking truth.
know? And they can also get in trouble for telling some people there's nothing wrong with you. You don't need anything.
That's right.
That's
right. That's right. Or there's alternative approaches. Have you thought about this or that? Or, and I've been there where, when you're diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, half the people, they don't even believe that. And I'm not even sure doctors know what that is. I think it's a little catch-all category. It's probably what they've coded mold. Since I had mold, since when the doctor actually tested me and they discovered I had mold, and I had it from years and years ago, and we don't all different kinds of mold, and it takes quite a bit of effort and time to get rid of that mold in your body, because it gets in there and it doesn't let go. So it's a process. But when you have mold, it affects all the things that all the symptoms of fibromyalgia, all the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome, depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, all of these things could be mold. And so I would encourage there's a real-time, talk to a doctor who knows about mold and get a real-time kit and test yourself for mold, check your house for mold, because that is, I'm not going to say it's the simplest solution, but it's a heck of a lot better than Alzheimer's or an endless, I'm never going to get fixed and I'm never going to have health again, because you don't know. People don't know about mold.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and you talked earlier in the show. Eating right is a big part too, and our food system has really changed, not for our health, but in a way that we can sustain enough food for everybody. So, when the average person goes to the grocery store and they look at grass-fed beef versus Walmart special beef, they tend to go to that other side, not understanding the difference of what they really got.
Yeah. Boy, if they could see all the toxins and the antibiotics and the drugs that are in the beef that's not grass-fed, grass-finished, they would think twice about it if they could see what that does inside their bodies, but it's not very visible. And we work really hard. My family's working really hard to do that. Even still, it's really hard. If I order in a Costco, if I get a Costco chicken, I don't know what they fed that chicken. Normally I want to make sure there's no genetic modifications. It's not a corn that's got Roundup, in it. So I don't know though. And so we try to always do organic, but we don't always, especially, and you don't have very much control at all if you ever eat out. So it is really very, very hard. But even if you do 80 to 90% better, even if you just get the sugar and the white flour out and get reduce the alcohol. I'm not saying you have to entirely knock it out unless you have Alzheimer's, and then it's just a toxin that's just too much for the brain to handle. But I think that there are some amazing things that people can do. I had this conversation with my mom, and she will never probably watch this, so I can say this, but she actually had she's having some memory issues and a little bit of personality. She's just a little bit less patient than she used to be, if you get where I'm going at. And she's 82, about to be 83. And my sister and I were worried. She has had a memory sharp as a tack longer than I've ever known. I mean, she was the sharpest of all of us. My sister and I didn't have a memory like hers. We never have. And she's starting to not have that memory. So we wanted to get her checked out. And she's like, I'm old. Everybody is 82 loses their memory. And I said, no, Mom, everybody doesn't lose their memory. That isn't a normal thing. You don't expect to lose your memory. So we had a neuroquant done. And a neuroquant is a special kind of MRI of the brain. And guess what they found? They found out she has her hippocampus and her amygdala are at 1%. This is pre-dementia. I mean, this is dementia. This is it showing up right there, right now, ready to go. and getting it very early, because a lot of the other areas aren't affected yet. But it is like, it is time right now for you to start following the Dr. Bredesen protocol, take the alcohol out of the diet, take sugar out of the diet, start exercising daily, doing the things that really can make a difference. And I don't think my mom really wanted to hear any of that.
Probably not.
You didn't really hear any of that? She knows, and she's making a choice. Know and make your choice for yourself. You can decide, it's worth it to me to keep doing this because this is the way I want to live. Okay, that's your choice, but at least you know.
Yep. Yep. And I'm going to be honest. I'm that guy too. I'm very straightforward when I go to the doctor, and I've had a doctor ask me how much I drink, and I've told them, and they told me, well, that sounds like quite a bit. And I said, well, that sounds like a matter of opinion. So,
you know how much I'm not drinking. There's all these hours I'm not drinking when I'm sleeping. Doesn't that count for something?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of the day, like you said, and like Doug said, I seen somewhere in here in the chat, he said, nobody knows their body better than them. So, at the end of the day, everybody makes their own choices, and they can do it however that they choose to live. So, and I agree, I will probably, regardless of what the doctors say, I have one of those sayings, I believe in living for quality, not quantity, and there is things that I want to fix to enjoy some more of that quality part, like my knees and stuff like that. And I do want to eventually get off some of this medication, because I'm not a fan of big pharma. I'm not a fan of I believe that medicine is designed to help until you get over the symptoms, not necessarily keep you on them for the rest of your life. I mean, if I have to have pills to be happy, then I'm not me anyways. So everything else is bullshit. So I want to eventually get to that point where I can be me again without the medication.
Right.
And that's kind of where I've gotten to. And I call that success too, because, before I just wanted to be happy again. And I was satisfied when I finally got stable from the medication. I was finally here, and so now that I've gotten to the point where I say, I'm tired of just every day is here. I'm not happy. I'm not sad. I'm just here.
Yeah.
And I want more out of that. That's not a bad thing. That's,
right.
I'm ready for that next step, And so that has brought me to where I've started bringing on guests so that I can learn about different stuff, and one day I'm going to make that choice of which path I want to go. And I'll probably do the same thing I did with the VA. I'll try things. If it don't work, I'll move to the next thing. And, I encourage my listeners to do the same thing. Don't come on my show and watch one episode and think that's that's why I have brought, everything from cannabis on. That's not for me. I didn't bring, I had a listener ask me to bring somebody on it, and I took my time finding somebody that I felt was educational, not somebody that just wanted to get high in a parking lot.
Right.
And bring somebody on to talk about it for that one particular listener. That's not for me. It's not a path that I was interested in it. But, I want people to be educated, and when I came across you, I am interested because I do listen to the Sean Ryan show and the Joe Rogan show, and I am interested in stem cell research and those types of things because it fascinates me. Not that I'm ever going to have $10,000 to go into some foreign land to do it.
Well, I'm here to tell you this is better than anything you would find out there. It's sort of like, it's sort of like Rayan is saying, what about seaweed? Yes, seaweed, algae, chlorophyll, spirulina. Those are ginormous, like super. One of them is they're just superfoods, right? They are feeding your body with a protein that is unparalleled. And hats off to you for knowing that, because I'm just learning about that. There's a wonderful person I just listened to who does something called Energy Bits. And I am so excited because I've ordered that and I can't wait to get that and feel what that feels like. I don't know anything about Blue Lotus tea, but I will look into that. I'm doing green matcha tea every day, and I appreciate you for recommending that. And I think that Doug called this the Wonder Patch and said veterans should start spending that money. And Doug, I'll tell you, I'm trying to get in touch with veterans. I've actually gone to the VFW and I've reached out. I've gone to a couple of veterans events and I've patched people out of pain. I can actually patch them over their clothing because this doesn't even have to be touching your skin. It can even be over a sweatshirt and still be effective, which I find absolutely miraculous. But I've patched like 100 people. I've gotten 94 out of 100 out of pain. That's a pretty good success rate. And that's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. I don't know any drug or anything else that's that good, and there's no drug in it. So, I hope that there are, and it doesn't have to be veterans, anybody. There's so many people in pain. Just as we get older, just everything kind of aches and you sleep wrong, whatever. It doesn't even need a cause, right? We just sort of we're a little more rickety than we used to be, but I don't feel that way anymore. I feel so much better. I wake up before my alarm clock now for the first time in my entire life, ever in my time. And you would think after 20 years in the Navy, very disciplined, getting up very early, never, ever happened. I would always, weekends, I would sleep all weekend. Like I was just like, let me sleep until the cows come home. But I'm not that way anymore. And I love that because I have more ability to have more energy to do the things that are good for me, including movement, including exercise, including working, grocery shopping or helping to fix a dinner that's healthier. But I have that space and time then to meditate and to actually be willing to meditate or to just be still or do deep breathing or have gratitude and do a gratitude journal and be thankful for this day. Because care providing, for those of you who are out there doing care providing, you know how hard this is. It is hard every single day to be patient and loving and sweet when they ask you whatever they're asking you, or they can't do whatever you think, well, they used to be able to do that. And now they can't do that anymore, whatever that might be, whether that's picking up the clothes to wear or knowing how to even get a water bottle out of the refrigerator, just things that you're having to do them for them. And learning everything about the house. I had to learn everything about the house, from filters to water softeners to all of the things, and that's a lot. And so care providers, they don't really get a break. We don't really get a break. I actually need to figure out how to sometime get a break, but you don't. And so it's a very different world. And I don't think I would be as good a care provider. Actually, I 100% can tell you I wouldn't be as good a care provider, as patient and loving and happy as I am because of these patches. So I couldn't endorse them more strongly. I'm so passionate about them that I'm willing to get on these programs and tell you guys, because it's so embarrassing to talk about all the things that I'm talking about. I just can't believe I'm actually sharing this. But I just feel like if one person would have shared it out loud with me a couple of years ago, we wouldn't be where we are today. And if it was just me and my husband experiencing this, I would probably think we're an anomaly. But there's so many people that I know experiencing so many great results that it was just like, okay, it's time to share this word. It's criminal to not.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely do agree. Well, Darlene, if you don't mind, share everybody again where they can find this stuff and where they can follow you.
Yeah, go to my website, IamReverseAging.com. That's IamReverseAging.com. So IamReverseAging.com. And you can look at videos on how this works. You can look at the studies. You can see the patents. You can see amazing pictures, before and after pictures that'll knock your socks off. You can see the ones of the lung cancer and scoliosis and the glaucoma in a dog's eye and all the things that you can see. You can also see videos from doctors, videos from people that have experienced amazing things. And you can buy the patches there. You can also just reach out to me and say, I would just like to talk with you about this and learn a little bit more. Happy to do that with anybody. And again, happy to create a consult where you can listen and listen to a presentation. You can hear Dr. Southwith talk about it and ask her questions. about what's right for you if you'd like. I'm actually pretty good at that too, but if a lot of people want a doctor, and I get that, so I do have a doctor at our disposal to help us out with that too. So it's really worth looking into. There's nobody that doesn't need it. And I would say this: everybody can wear these, with the exception of someone that has an organ in their body that's not their own. So if you've had a liver, kidney, or heart transplant, something like that, then you ought to work with your doctor, because this improves the immune system so much. And most of those people are on immune suppressant drugs. So you want to be really careful managing through that. So that's it, though. People are putting them on their children. Their pregnant women are wearing them. I mean, you'd have to talk to your doctor. I'm not going to tell you not to talk to your doctor, right? Everybody should talk to their doctor. We haven't done any studies on kids or on pregnant women. I just know a ton of people that are kids and pregnant women that are wearing our patches. So I think it's just an amazing technology. It's light therapy. It's your own body optimizing and making your body harmonious and healthy again. So I hope that your listeners do take a look. And Donald, I just want to close by saying thank you to you for your bravery and your courage in sharing your story with the world and creating a platform that is helpful for you in your own processing, but is also helpful for others, because it makes them not feel alone, and it makes them not feel like they're this person that is the only person in the world that has this or that. They're connected in a way that I think is really special. So I just really appreciate you, and I appreciate your audience, and thank you for the honor of being here with you today.
Well, I appreciate that, Darlene. I appreciate you coming on. If you don't mind, we'll talk a little bit after we throw the exit video, and we'll talk about the podcast getting released. I want to thank everybody that listened, and everybody, Doug for commenting, Rayan, Joel, and I know I'm forgetting somebody else that commented, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Hope to see y'all for the next show. You guys take care, be safe, and as always, make sure you guys are doing your research and talking to your doctors about anything that you guys are thinking about trying. So be safe. See y'all next show. Take care. Love y'all.